ankles, and I'm single with game, sick enough to give you shingles. Baby, it's the G from the NO, gaining the whole world and still keeping his soul. But for right now, I'm just parlaying with my people, MCing like I'm Mariah's initials. My G's and my greens around me like they my kinfolk, pouring up, blowing on like the DJ speaker. I just came to claim my space.
Welcome back, K.Summers crew. So what I want to do today, happy JuneTeenth, you guys. Happy June 19th. Respect the ancestors. And what I want to do is I want to do a New Orleans edition of June 19th and just do a little minimal history and research and everything and just present it to you all. Some things I already knew, some things I'm still learning. It's a lot of culture. I want to start off with Congo Square. Congo Square is actually the vicinity of a spot which the Houma Indians, okay, the Native Americans, they were in New Orleans first before anyone. All right. So, you know, the Native Americans, the Houma Indians, we have a place in Louisiana called Houma. Actually, we have a lot of places in Louisiana named and respected after the Native Americans and a lot of traditions. But we're going to get into that. So Congo Square, it was actually used by the Native Americans before the arrival of the French. It was used so that the Native Americans could celebrate their corn harvest, which was considered sacred ground. So on that sacred ground, the gathering of enslaved African vendors in Congo Square originated as early as the 1740s during Louisiana's French colonial period and continued during the Spanish colonial era as one of the city's public markets. So yes, New Orleans is French, it's Spanish, it's Native American, it's everything. It's Creole. So by 1803, Congo Square had become famous for the gatherings of enslaved Africans who drummed, danced, sang, and traded on Sunday afternoons. Now you all get why. Every single Sunday in New Orleans, it's a gathering of cultural, people together, having fun, second lining, eating, drinking, laughing, all kind of stuff, especially when the Saints play. I mean, it's just a big thing. Sundays is when New Orleans lives. So let's pause on Congo Square real quick so I can show you what I'm talking about. This is ancient second line and looks like from I don't know what year. And then we're going to go into the 70s and then to now. So I'm telling you, if you plan a trip to New Orleans, make sure you're here on a Sunday, especially during second line season, especially, just to be there on a Sunday. You're going to get this whole feeling on a Sunday, leave on a Monday or a Tuesday. All right, so we're about to get into the 70s. When I tell y'all, it's the same people over and over and over again in New Orleans. It's the same spirits, the same people. Picture all the same people today. The same people. Resilient. The same people dancing on grave sites and grave tombs. Yes, that's right. We're not scared of the graveyard. That's the grave tombs. We put people inside of a tomb above ground. still dancing on cars in 2019. And everybody knows that New Orleans, Louisiana, period, has its own spirit. But when you go into New Orleans, you get this feeling over you. I don't know what it is, but by me traveling so much and living away and then coming back and then living away and then coming back, I always get to actually feel the difference and the spirit. So you would definitely notice that if you ever visit New Orleans, and make sure you get over to Congo Square. It's actually inside of Louis Armstrong Park now. They built a park around it. By 1819, these gatherings numbered as many as 500 to 600 people. Among the most famous dances were the Bamboula, the Kalinda, and the Congo. These African cultural expressions gradually developed into Mardi Gras Indian traditions, which I'm going to show you in a second. The second line, and eventually New Orleans jazz and rhythm and blues. Okay. And that's what Congo Square is, a place where the Africans who were enslaved were able to celebrate their traditions and their culture on Sundays. So now let's get more into the African slaves from New Orleans and the Native Americans who founded New Orleans first, and the reason why we still celebrate them today.
Noted jazz saxophonist Donald Harrison is the big chief of Congo Nation. He spends about a year creating his elaborate suit for Mardi Gras.
It's a spiritual revelation that you go through when you put it on.
Congo Nation is one of about 36 tribes known collectively as the Mardi Gras Indians, who parade in their own neighborhoods on the big day.
How much does this suit weigh?
This one probably weighs about 70 pounds.
The origins of the Mardi Gras Indians go back to the 1700s, when slaves would gather in New Orleans' Congo Square to play traditional African music. They started masquerading as Native Americans, in part to honor native tribes who sheltered and protected escaped slaves.
We were masking as Indians because, once again, because we couldn't express our own Afrocentric culture, we hid behind that mask.
Behind me is a rehearsal of the Mardi Gras Indian tribe, the Mohawk Hunters, as they prepare for Mardi Gras Day. What you're seeing would normally be off limits to the general public. Tyrone Casby has been big chief of the Mohawk Hunters since 1980. He says it's all about family, community, and culture.
It takes a lot of love to do what we do.
And they plan to continue doing it for generations to come.
So aside from Mardi Gras, there's something called St. Joseph Night, and this is St. Joseph Night 2019. St. Joseph Night is where all of the Mardi Gras Indians, all of those 36 of tribes that she spoke of, they all gather up and they meet up in one spot. I'm talking about the uptown Indians, the downtown Indians, the across the canal, everybody. They all meet up and they do rituals.
I'm the pretty spy boy they looking for. I'm the one that talk about. I talk about Bonito all day long. I talk about Bonito all day long. Go back to the drawing board. Spot boy. Gucci man. Gucci man. I them spot boy. Spot boy make no hoomba. Gucci man. Spot boy now you wear black hats again.
So yes, the Native Americans, their culture mixed with our culture will forever be a part of our Juneteenth history. And also I wanted to say that's why we have streets in New Orleans called Chapatoulas, like Chapatoulas Street, meaning you live by the water, by the river. And then we also have parishes. We have 64 parishes, of course. We don't have counties, 64 parishes in Louisiana. And this is just a few of the ones that are named after Native American descent. There are French ones. There are French and Canadian ones. There's a bunch of parishes. But there's Cato Parish, Calcasieu Parish, Catahoula Parish, Natchitoches Parish, just to name a few. So quickly, the slave market of New Orleans, there were auction blocks in the rotunda of the St. Louis Hotel, private residences, parks, decks of slave ships along the Mississippi River, all kinds of places, pens for slaves, the Banks Arcade. And I'm going to show you a few pictures of what it looks like today. And that's why no matter where you are in the city, you can feel the spirit because the whole French Quarter, that's why they had to flood out the city. I'm talking, but they had to, flood out the city so that they could save the ancient French Quarter area. French Quarter, slave quarters, everywhere you go, walking around down there, partying, all of that. Slaves built it. Slaves lived there. Slaves worked there. This is the St. Louis Hotel today where they sold and bought African slaves. So these are some photos today of French Quarter slave quarters. You guys usually don't get to see the actual quarters because you're usually partying on the front or inside of the venue. But if you ever go out back, if there's like a smoking patio or like a smoking courtyard or like just an outside courtyard or something, then you'll get this feel and you'll know what it is. You'll see like bricks on the ground, like the ground is made out of bricks and everything. And a lot of the buildings that you party in and you see in the French Quarter, behind there is the slave quarters where they worked outside behind the actual house. I have a friend who actually lives on Bourbon Street. And when I tell you the strangest things happen there, oh my God, when we're there, I don't sleep over. And of course, all throughout Louisiana, there are plantations. And these plantations, I don't mess with them. They are definitely, I don't know what to say, but these are the plantations. And there are lots of plantations, slave plantations. New Orleans doesn't have these type of plantations. So make sure when you come to Louisiana and you visit New Orleans, just take time to step outside of New Orleans and go and visit some of these huge plantations. These are the traditional plantations that you see on television, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, all of the South. These are the traditional ones that we have in Louisiana, and it's outside of New Orleans, outside of the city. I hope you enjoyed this New Orleans edition of Juneteenth. And again, happy Juneteenth, everyone. Make sure you come and visit your ancestors, our ancestors, and our culture in New Orleans. It's also your culture.
Yeah, baby, move something like you're in a U-Haul.